Yes, let's head to our Ireland correspondent, Stephen Murphy, who joins us live from Dublin, looking at the arrival back in Ireland of Daniel Kinahan. Stephen, over to you.
Yeah, we've just seen pictures there now of the government jet, the Irish government jet, at the very end of its journey. It's just touched down now at Casement Aerodrome. That's the Irish military airbase just outside of Dublin city centre after a 7-hour-plus journey there from Dubai, but effectively the end of more than a decade in that country, in the United Arab Emirates, for Daniel Kinahan, probably one of the most high-profile, if not the most high-profile, extradition case ever to take place here in Ireland. The 49-year-old former boxing promoter, accused by Irish authorities of being at the very pinnacle of a multinational drugs crime cartel, something that he, of course, has fully denied. He has battled extradition here to Ireland for quite some time. But he has now touched down. We're here outside the Special Criminal Court. It's a special non-jury court. It's used to deal with dissident terrorism cases and serious gangland cases. It's going to hold a special sitting this evening. It's 3 judges, and they will be the first members of the Irish judiciary to see Daniel Kinahan in the flesh. A decade ago, he hit headlines here in Ireland with an audacious daytime attempt on his life by a hit squad at a boxing weigh-in. They failed. They did kill one of his associates, David Byrne, but that was the end of Daniel Kinahan's time in Ireland. He went to Spain and then eventually settled in Dubai. The Americans described his organisation as being one of the most dangerous cartels in the globe, rivaling anything that we see in Mexico or Colombia. They placed a $5 million bounty on his head. In the end, it was intense diplomatic efforts by the Irish, who forged an extradition agreement with the UAE 2 years ago. From that moment on, his time in the Gulf was really limited. He was arrested in April. He has been in jail in Dubai since then, and now he has just arrived back here in Dublin. He will be arrested, we believe, on the tarmac, and then an intense security operation will see him brought in convoy, we believe military and armed police, in for the court sitting. Daniel Kinahan back in Ireland for the first time in a decade, we believe, to face charges of serious organised crime.
Stephen, in that decade he was away, I mean, except for most recently, of course, he seemed to be flagrantly flouting the fact that he was in Dubai. He was seen in public fairly regularly, except, of course, as I say, in recent months.
That's right, yeah. He lived an open life there with his wife and their 5 children in a fairly salubrious accommodation in Dubai. He reinvented himself as a boxing promoter. He worked with some fairly big names over the last few years. So all of that ended in 2022 when the American government decided to impose really severe international sanctions upon the Kinahan organised crime group. They put the $5 million bounties on 3 members, his father, Christie Sr., and then Christie Jr., his brother. They're still in the Gulf, we believe, at this time. No movement or no arrest warrants have been issued for them. But Daniel Kinahan was the #1 target of the Irish police and has been for quite a long time here. I know it's been a source of great frustration for many in the Irish police, the Gardaí, that it has taken quite a long time to get all the nuts and bolts in order to secure A, the extradition agreement, and B, the go-ahead for a prosecution. But that long journey now has finally come to an end, and the life that Daniel Kinahan was enjoying in Dubai is certainly over. He has now arrived, and the future is obviously highly uncertain. We believe that the hearing here at the Special Criminal Court will be quite a brief one. It is likely that as an initial proceeding, he will be remanded in custody. Usually that would be to a remand prison here in Dublin called Cloverfield. Due to the security arrangements, the intense security arrangements, and the perception of a threat to Daniel Kinahan, he's actually being removed to Ireland's only high security prison, which is in a place called Portlaoise in the Midlands, about an hour or so outside of Dublin. That's what we expect to happen here. Several units of armed Gardaí, armed police have now arrived at the courthouse, and we expect that journey to begin very soon, and he will be before the court, a day that many here in the law enforcement community thought they would never see.
And Stephen, the allegations are incredibly wide-ranging. We're not just talking about the stuff that people might expect of organised crime in Ireland and the UK, but allegations that they're involved in ships smuggling Iranian oil. I mean, this is stuff on a grand scale that they're being accused of doing.
Yeah, I mean, again, we have to be very careful in what we can say ahead of this proceeding getting underway. We don't even know, for example, how many charges Daniel Kinahan will face, although we believe it could just be a single charge of directing an organised crime organisation, which in itself does hold a potential tariff of life in prison. But the reason the Americans and the NCA and the UK and others became so involved several years ago is because in Dubai, it has been alleged by authorities here that cartel greatly diversified from, say, drug dealing and involved itself in the shipping of crude and potentially having links to organisations like Hezbollah and other organisations around the world, including in Iran and in Latin America, South America. That was regarded then as a direct threat to American global interests, and that's when we really saw the American authorities, such as the DEA, get involved and put that bounty in a very publicised move. And I think that was in 2022. Many here then saw that as the slow beginning of the decline of the power of the Kinahan organised crime group. They said, you know, it would be very difficult for them to survive those sort of international scrutiny, that sort of international sanctioning. But it has taken a further 4 years before we see a plane touchdown carrying the alleged leader of that organisation himself, Daniel Kinahan.
And the man himself, Stephen, has said over the weekend, said yesterday he was happy to be getting on a plane back to Ireland. I'll just read this quote. The security is going to be crazy. I'm sitting here reflecting a little, he said, speaking to a podcaster. Then he's thinking about what happened, how I got here, all the stuff that's happened in my life. Look, regardless of what he's done, he certainly seems to be in reflective mood as he comes back to Ireland, even though the future looks very uncertain indeed.
He's not a man that speaks to the mainstream media. He does occasionally speak to certain podcasters that he has forged some sort of a relationship with. We all saw those comments over the last few days. I think, you know, a lot of people here would take a lot of that with a substantial pinch of salt. It seems somewhat hard to believe that anyone really would be reconciled with or even looking forward to returning to their home country in such circumstances to face such incredibly serious criminal charges when for over a decade they've been living a life, we believe, of comparative luxury in the sunshine in the UAE. But certainly he likes to paint himself. He's 49 years old. He's from a very humble background. He paints himself as someone from the Oliver Bonds flats here in inner city Dublin, that he is a scapegoat and has been scapegoated, that he's an entrepreneur, that he's a boxing promoter. And that has been what the point of view that he is given, that, you know, as far as he is concerned, these are false accusations and always have been against him. And in a way, I suppose he is implying he is looking forward to coming home to Ireland in order to clear his name and in order to give his side of the story eventually after such a long time. And of course, legally, he enjoys that presumption of innocence.
Just to update you, we are discussing the arrival back on Irish soil of Daniel Kinahan after he was extradited from the United Arab Emirates and has returned on an Irish government jet to Dublin, soon to appear in court in the Republic as well. Stephen Murphy, our correspondent there, thank you very much indeed for the time being.